Good afternoon. Welcome, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to this live edition of Turnaround Marriage in 2022. I still can't believe we're already in the year 22 and well into it already. And guys, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yep.
It's amazing.
It's flying by.
We want to drop in today and talk about something that we're seeing a lot and talk about three things that you've got to stop doing in 2022 to change your marriage, to save your marriage, to turn things around quickly. And guys, if you're realizing that your marriage, that there's been sowing in seeds of hurt and disconnection, this is exactly the place you need to be today to make some of those three changes that can make for all the difference in 2022.
Yes, guys. So welcome. We are Scott and Rachel. We help committed Christian couples finally end cycles of conflict and disconnection and reclaim the love, passion, and playfulness that they once had. And so if you're on Facebook, say hello, give us a thumbs up, let us know you're here. And if you're on YouTube, go ahead and hit that little bell and subscribe so that you don't miss any of our content. We are here to encourage and strengthen your Christian marriage.
Yes.
Yeah, so we want to dive into the first thing that you need to stop doing immediately if you want to save your marriage, and that is name calling and criticism.
Yeah.
The critical spirit that we have seen when we talk to Christian couples is mind-blowing. And after years or decades of hurts and sins and poor habits and bad habits and poor communication, I understand that in the hurt,
right,
it is easy to want to lash out. But I am appalled to hear Christians calling their spouse terrible, terrible names. And it has got to stop.
Yeah.
It is one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse of marriage that will literally destroy your marriage, this criticism and name calling. And we are here to tell you, you have got to stop. As a Christian, you shouldn't even be treating your enemy that way, calling them names I can't even repeat to you that I have heard potential clients and clients of ours say that they have been calling their spouse.
Right.
You've got to stop it immediately, right? Because people hurt people.
It's true. And it never ceases to amaze us because we all know it's undignified. It is below what a Christian is called to do, to be, to act like. And my goodness, it's actually partnering with the devil to attack your spouse. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I don't care what they've done. It is beneath a Christian to go there. And my goodness, maybe guys, I'll just be honest. A lot of times it was modeled to you. That's what you knew. Mm-hmm. That was the example that you were given. And you thought it was really, really normal. And I think that's what happens oftentimes. It's like it publicly, we put on these goody two-shoe faces. Everything's just fine. But behind the scenes, that's when things often can get into that place of deep criticism and name calling. And oftentimes that's maybe what it was like growing up, but it simply doesn't excuse or make that okay. It doesn't excuse it away. It doesn't make it okay. And it doesn't matter. In fact, some of the ones we've seen the worst were ones that were in Christian leadership. Yes. Whether that meant Sunday school teachers or pastors or evangelists, we see it all the time. And guys, there is nothing you could do more apart from maybe cheating on your spouse than name calling and criticizing the other person. Yeah. And it simply has got to stop. It absolutely has to stop. And maybe you and your spouse need to have a heart to heart, especially when things aren't tense, and say, it is simply not fair for us to do that. It's not good for us. We're not giving a good example for our kids. And it's not ever going to help us. So that's number one. That's got to die.
Yeah. And I was just going to add one thing, Scott. That's so good. If you're doing that, especially if you're doing that in front of your children,
yes,
would you want some future gentleman to say those things to your little daughter?
Right.
Would you want your daughter to speak that way to her husband one day, to your son one day, right? What if somebody is modeling that, and that's going to end up happening to your children? Like you said, you're partnering with the enemy of your soul. And just because let's say one of you has lied, if you start calling them a liar, now this is an identity piece. And now there's nothing I can do. I'm a liar. That means I guess I'm going to lie. And the more you call them a liar, guess what? The more that they're going to agree with you and go ahead and keep lying. If you call them a cheater, if they haven't in fact cheated, then guess what? That is now their identity. And now it's going to be okay for them to keep going in their mind with cheating. They're going to follow what you say. And so Guys, you have to be very careful to, instead of criticizing the person, you want to let them know what they have done that has hurt you, not
Yeah.
criticizing them and their character and in their core.
It's so true, because we all tend to have those negative themes and even those things that we say to ourselves. And we don't need someone else, especially the one closest to us, adding more.
Yeah.
It adds to these storylines that may already be destructive in yourself. If you have, if you have poor self-esteem already, if you're really, you're angry about some of those hurts, and then you have on top of that all these negative things that have been said of you, it compiles. It never ever obviously is going to help things.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the second thing that we see a lot of that's very, very detrimental, and that is blaming and defensiveness. They kind of go hand in hand. And blaming, it can feel so easy in the moment to go into the place of shifting the blame, because it feels like you've been wronged, and maybe you have been. Maybe they have not been nice to you. Maybe you see in their face the disdain or the frustration or the anger, and you're just like, why are they reacting so much? But what you're losing sight of is that it's not just reacting to the one situation, but it's a compiled situation.
Mhm.
Always it is.
Yeah.
And it's like this, speaking of children, like if you had two kids, and maybe a lot of you out there are parents or maybe even grandparents at this point, and you have two kids and they come running into the room and they're screaming and they're yelling and they're like, she told me this, he was doing this to me, and they're going back and forth. And what are you going to do? Sit there? I need to sit them two down and go back and forth and have a court case here and decide who is more guilty than the other so that I can levy the judgment. Of course you wouldn't do that. You'd be foolish as a parent, because in looking at them, neither one of them is completely innocent. Ever are they completely innocent. So in the context of marriage, guys, a lot of times we see adults acting like kids when we get on the phone with them. They're almost like trying to prove who is more innocent than the other and completely blaming the other person and being defensive of themselves. You can look at kids, you can look at any other marriage, and inherently there is no such thing as a completely innocent party. It just simply doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so that has got to die in 2022 if you want to save your marriage, if you want your marriage to be healthy. You cannot be affecting change. You cannot be fixing things by pointing at the other person. It simply doesn't work.
Yeah, it's so good, Scott. And it's so true. And, if the minute that your spouse brings something to your attention that hurts, and maybe they don't do it in the most loving way, maybe they don't do it in the most honorable,
Mhm.
respectful, or gentle way. But if your defenses are going up immediately and you are turning that
Right.
finger around and pointing it right back at them, rather than looking at, is there an element of truth to what they're saying, even if they're not saying it in the right way? Can you look yourself in the mirror? Right? Can you look
Mhm.
yourself in the mirror? Because this has been going on since Genesis chapter 3, right? I mean, from the beginning, the very first time Adam and Eve sinned against God, the first thing they did was blame each other, blame
Mhm.
God, blame the serpent, blame, blame, blame. It was like, you've got to own your own stuff. And so, guys, this is one of those things that must stop if you want to
Right.
save your marriage. You need to be open to feedback from your spouse. If you have hurt them, if you have done something, stop pointing the finger in the other direction, and you'll see things
It's so true.
change. Yeah.
It's so true. And especially when we know the gospel. And I don't mean just hypothetically or theoretically know that we're forgiven of our sins. Like when we really understand that we have sinned against the holy God, and we have done it routinely, and we do it every single day, and we have done it grievously, that we have committed adultery and murder in our hearts, and it's in the sight of God almost the same thing. Not the same in terms of consequences, but in the sense that it's an offense to God. In that same manner, we're not innocent. None of us are innocent. And when we're gospel partners, which is what marriage is designed to be,
Mm-hmm.
you cannot just point the finger and say, well, how dare you, evil woman? Like we go back to, like you said in Genesis 3, it was like, well, God, this woman you gave me, she made me sin against you, and you gave her to me. So that's what Adam did, and that's where he was wrong from the beginning, was to blame God and blame his spouse.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work. And it's not in alignment with what is true, and it's not in alignment with the gospel. It simply isn't.
Yeah.
And I will just say, the blame and the defensiveness will never help you to win. It will never help your marriage to succeed. It will only be detrimental. Only.
Yeah.
Even if you're completely right.
Yeah, it might feel like it's deflecting
Yeah.
the problem in the moment, but you might win the battle, but you'll lose the war every time. You're absolutely right. So guys, the third thing that we want to tell you that you must stop doing if you want to save your marriage is stop going it alone. We have seen with COVID that so many people have stopped going to church. They've disconnected themselves from the body, from fellowship, from teaching, from admonition. And now things are worse and they want to blame COVID, but they're isolated, they're alone. And when you have a lone gazelle, the lion goes after that lone gazelle. He's not in his pack. Guys, we're here to tell you, if you've had decades or years of this type of criticism or defensiveness and blaming, we're here to tell you, do not go it alone. First of all, you need to get reconnected with your church. You need to. You absolutely need to. It is vital for your sanity, for your spiritual health, for your marriage, and for your family. And the second thing is, you need someone to come alongside you and help untangle this web of mess, because we can tell you all day long what not to do, but now let's ask you, why are you doing it? Where are the patterns? Where did this come from? And that's what somebody like Scott and I can help you do, and help you unravel and untangle the mess.
Right.
And so going it alone is like you're going to spin your wheels and keep doing the same thing over and over again, and you're going to not get anywhere.
That's so true. And I appreciate you saying that, Rach, because a lot of people have lost sight of that. I really think that. I know that. We were never intended to do the Christian walk alone.
Right.
And I think with the Christian marriage too, yes, we were made to leave our parents and cleave to our spouses, but that doesn't mean that we don't need input and advice and wisdom and godly examples. We absolutely need that. And if your marriage is struggling and you guys have been going it alone, it's simply not going to work. It's simply not going to work without outside encouragement. And it might mean a lot of venues. It might be at the bare minimum, having other brothers and sisters that you're friends with that are praying for you, encouraging you. But guys, a lot of times what is missing, even in the context of the church, we're going a few minutes a week. What is missing is what one of our clients said. It's like we came into this program that went and walked with us for a number of months. And they said, it's like this was the sage advice that should have been handed down from generation to generation, and we never got.
Yeah.
There they were, not young adults by, about our age, a little older. And they never received the teaching and the ideal example of what a Christian marriage ought to look like beyond just like the movies, but like in practical speak, how does it work for them? And so that's where a lot of people get stuck, is like they're seeing the disconnect in their own marriage. And they hear what the Bible says. Maybe they've watched the movie Courageous, and they know what it should look like, but they're not able to get there. And that's where a Christian marriage coaching can come really bridge that gap in a powerful way, because it's not that we don't know what it should look like. It's that you don't know how to get there. And guys, when you get that in your life, when you get that in your marriage, it can be really, really powerful to help you see the blind spots and really get that transformation way quicker than you could imagine.
It's so true. And I like how you said blind spots, because that's the thing. We always say the inside of the jar cannot read the outside of the label. When you're in the midst of the mess, you can't see what you can't see.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know. And that's what's so powerful about transformational coaching, is we really help you to figure out what is it that you want, what's standing in your way, and how can we remove the obstacles and get you there? What are those beliefs that you have about it? Maybe you believe they deserve it. Maybe you believe that, it's not your fault. Maybe you believe at the core, it is all their fault. We can really help you to unravel that.
That's so true.
And get that marriage back that you've been praying for.
Just a chance encounter that I had at the gym a few days ago was a man, same age as me. We just started talking. I never met him before, but he was really buff, and it's been clear he'd been working out for a long time. And I was like, man, if I get in your way, just let me know. And he was really kind back to me. And I said, hey, let me know if you see anything I should be doing different. And he actually did. He's like, no, that's not the best way to do the plank. You're going to be hurting your back this way. You could get a lot more of it if you shift this way. Like, I could not have even seen that. There's no way I could have. And he's like, you need to adjust this. You need to straighten that. And when he did it, it was like, he pushed me a little bit harder. I went double the amount of time I normally did, because he's there encouraging me. And he was able to make it much more helpful for my body. And I'm going to take that forward, from here on out. And so, guys, it's the same thing for you. There's probably blinders you can't even see because it's been the pattern for a long time. And that's exactly what we want to encourage you guys to think about. And if you're realizing in 2022, you've been going it alone and it's time to invest in your marriage, it's time to get the right kind of help. What we want to encourage you to do is book a free breakthrough call. You can go to turnaroundmarriage.com/call, pick a time that works, fill out a short questionnaire. And guys, this could be the best investment of your time of 45 minutes to an hour that you've ever spent in your marriage. And what we'll do on that call is talk about what is not working, at least what you feel that it is. And you may not even be able to see all those blind spots. And we'll talk about some of those and help you identify some of them. Then we'll talk about what you guys hope that it can be, what's in God's heart for your marriage and a pathway to get there. And if we can help you guys to bridge that gap, we'll talk about what that would look like working together. We'll talk about what that investment in your marriage would look like so that you can move out of the name calling, the blaming, defensiveness, or whatever else is holding you back and start aiming for the marriage that God intended for you.
Yes.
Because it was supposed to be a blessing. And it should be a blessing.
And it is a blessing.
And it is.
It
That's what's
can
in
be.
God's heart for you. It absolutely is.
Yeah. So guys, if that's you, go ahead and go to turnaroundmarriage.com/call. We'll talk soon, and God bless
Absolutely.
you and your Christian marriage.